Okay, so we've already talked about what it means to solve a system of linear equations. We've talked about how to solve them by graphing, which I think is the easiest way, but we haven't talked about writing them. So on your EOC, you are going to see parts where they ask you to pick the correct system of linear equations that matches the story problem. And so I'm just going to show you a couple tips and tricks of ways to do that. Okay, so when do you use a system to solve a word problem? So we use a system of two equations when there are two unknowns. Okay, we're talking about the story problems that have to do with dimes and nickels and how many dimes does someone have, or tickets and cost, and things like that. So I'm just going to show you how we work those out. How do we solve them? So the first thing we're going to do is identify the two variables for the two unknowns. Okay, now it does say here to pick variables that represent the unknowns. So if we're talking about eggs, we might use E. If we're talking about milk, we might use M. It doesn't always have to be X and Y. I will tell you though, on your EOC, 9 times out of 10 they do use X and Y. But if you're going to solve the system, okay, by graphing or using y equals on your calculator, you're going to want to change your letters to x and y. But remember to make sure you know what x and y represent. Okay. After we identify our two variables, we're going to write the two equations from the problem that you need to solve to answer the question. Okay, we're going to match letters with numbers and money with money. Okay, so what does that mean? There's actually a perfect example in your notes actually where we match money with money and number with numbers. Okay, so if I know that I have quarters and dimes and I have a total of 15 of them, that's where this would come into. So if we have part plus whole or equals whole, that's what that's going to look like. But we could also have quarters plus quarter, or quarters plus dimes equals $3.20, that sort of a thing, where we have money equals total. Okay. After we match and write our equations, we're going to pick a method and solve the system. Okay, today we're just going to focus on writing them, but we're not going to solve them just yet. Okay. So when and how do I write a system for a graph or of tables? Okay, so if I give you a graph versus if I give you a table, okay, and I still ask you to write a system, okay, if you have a graph with two lines, write the slope-intercept form of each. So that's where we use our y equals mx plus b, okay. Identify your y-intercept. Then pick another nice point and find your slope by counting your rise over run. Okay? If you're given a table, so if you're given two tables, this is where your calculator comes in handy. We're going to stat, enter. And this is where we have an L1 and an L2. So our x values go in L1, our y values go in L2. After we enter the values, we go back to stat, calc, and then we choose option 4. And it's going to tell me the exact equation of our line. Okay? So moving on to examples. Okay, before we move on to these story problems, there's a couple of words that are important to know what they mean in terms of a story problem. Okay, so we have words, meaning. Okay, so we might see the word is. Whenever I see the word is, always means equal. Okay, more means add. Of means multiply. Difference means we subtract. Okay, and we add. And I think that's it for this side. Okay, so whenever we see these words, that's exactly what they mean in terms of a story problem. Okay, so using this list, let's look at the first problem. The difference of two numbers is 8. The second number is 15 more than half of the first number. Write a system to find the numbers. Notice it also says don't solve. So the first thing we're going to do is actually figure out or identify our two variables. Well, they're numbers, so I'm going to use x as my first number. And y as my second number. Okay. So now that we know what we're looking at, let's go ahead and look at the first sentence. The difference, so we already know from our table, difference means subtract, of two numbers is 8. So the difference of two numbers, so we know we have a first number and a second number, so difference means subtract, is means equal, 8. So there's my first equation. Okay. The second number, so we know that that's y, is 15 more. So I'm going to add 15 to something. Then half of the first number, which is x. Okay, so I pretty much have it all right there. So y equals half of the second number, 15 more plus 15. There's my system. Okay. Question number 2, the total so I guess we could do total here too. Total is also another word for equals. So the total cost of 6 glasses of milk and 3 bagels is $17.75. The total cost of 4 glasses of milk and 4 bagels is $16. Write a system, don't solve. Okay, so because we're dealing with milk and bagels, so let's just do M for milk, B for bagels. Okay, so we identified our variables. Okay, 6 glasses of milk, so that's 6M, and 3 bagels is, so there's my first equation right there, 6M plus 3B equals your total, 17.25. The total cost for 4 glasses of milk, so we have 4M, and 4B is, and there's my second, 4 glasses of milk and 4 bagels is 16. Okay. Write a system of linear equations. Okay, so number 3, an investor has a total, so equal sign, of 45 1-ounce bars made of either gold or silver. So I can already tell you right now, gold or silver, just by skimming the problem, those are going to be our two variables. So G for gold, S for silver. We're just going to keep it easy. Okay. Worth $7,636. Okay. So that first sentence right there tells me we're going to deal with an example where we have money plus money. Let me find I can find a pen. Where did it go? Okay, whatever. So we'll have money plus money equals total money. Okay, and then we'll have number plus number equals the total. Okay, so a lot has been given to us in the first sentence alone. So example, it tells us there's a total of 45. So something has to equal 45. Okay, so this is where the number plus number equals total. So I know that we have 45 1-ounce bars, and it's either gold or silver. So that means that the number of gold bars plus the number of silver bars has to equal 45 total bars. Okay, so that's our first system, or first linear equation. Okay, so that means the second one has to do with money, and it has to equal the total money, which we know is 7,636. 7,636.50. Okay, so we know, looking at our second sentence, the value of a gold bar is $2.80. So for every gold bar, we're going to pay $280. Okay? The value of a silver bar is $4.25. So $4.25 for silver. There are the two equations. Okay. Most likely, you're going to see problems that look like this on your EOC. Okay. Example number 4 says we're still going to find the system, but we're going to find the equation. So here's line 1. We'll solve for line 1, and we'll solve for line 2. Okay. So remember, we're using y equals mx plus b, okay? And we're also going to find the y-intercept and count the rise over run to find the slope. Okay. Oh, I didn't realize you couldn't see that. My bad, guys. Okay, so for line 1, so we'll call this the yellow one, number 1. The first thing I notice is that it crosses right here. It's always easier to find your y-intercept first. So I know that it's going to be y equals something x plus 1. So now I'm going to find another good point. This one's pretty good. And we're going to do our rise over run. So rise, we go up 1, over 1, 2, 1/2. Okay, so there's the equation for line 1. So now the pink one, we'll say the pink one is line 2. Okay, so for line 2, we have y equals something x. The y-intercept is all the way up here at 6, so plus 6. Here's a good point. So we count down 2 over 1, which is the same thing as negative 2x plus 6. So those are our two equations for that line, or for that system of equations. Okay? And this last one, if you don't have a calculator and you have an iPhone, go to your app store, Calculate 84 is a free calculator app. It's going to ask you to sign in. You don't have to use it. It looks exactly like a calculator we use in class. And actually, the first time I recorded these notes, that's what I used at home because I didn't have a calculator, and I was able to solve it perfectly. So that is very helpful. Notice we're given two tables. The long way around this is to plot all the points, connect the dots, solve for y equals, or we can do stat, enter, stat, and then calc 4. Okay, so we're going to have to do this for each line. So this is going to be line 1, and this will be line 2. I can spell. Line has an E at the end. Okay, so for line 1, okay, so let me grab my calculator. Make it a little brighter. Okay, so we're going to go stat right here, stat, edit, so stat, enter. I already have numbers there, so I'm going to go ahead and clear those out by hitting the up arrow key and the clear key. Okay, and now I'm going to enter my x values, -3, 0, 3, 6. And then I'm going to enter my y values, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, then I'm going to hit stat again. I'm going to go over to calc. Oops. Then I'm going to go down to number 4. If you hit enter or the arrow key, it doesn't matter, get all the way down to calculate. Hit enter. Your slope is the A value, your y-intercept is the B value. The decimal point 3333333333333, so on and so forth. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever you see that, it's always going to be 1/3. Okay, so the equation for line 1 is y equals -1/3 x, because remember A is our slope, plus 2, the y-intercept. Okay, so we're going to do the exact same thing for line 2. Okay, so we go back to stat, edit. You can clear it, or you can type your numbers right over the top of this. So I'm going to go -4, -3, 0, 2 over here, 2, 3, 6, 8. Okay, stat, calc, number 4, all the way down to calculate. So A is our slope, B is our y-intercept. So our equation is y equals 1x plus 6. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know.